What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. The Olympics begin this week as we will have the U.S. men's and women's beach and indoor volleyball team taking the court and representing the good old U.S. of A. Also talk about the other teams as well as the schedule's released, and we are looking forward to seeing what can happen. I'm looking forward to fully following this because I really don't follow a whole lot of the Olympics. I mean, I like to follow the Olympics sometimes, but now since I'm doing Set Point, I gotta be all in. So, and then we have to talk about the U.S. women's U20 volleyball team as they finished 5th, which isn't where they wanted to finish, but they finished strong. And then we have some schedule releases I have to go over, as we also have some transfer talks to go over. And then later on the show, keep it locked here because next week is the 100th episode of Set Point. And I got to disclose some further instructions for that and information. All that and more here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon or Monday evening, depending on where you're listening. We are in episode 99 of Set Point, and this is for sure episode 99. It's not episode 98 or episode 100. This is for sure episode 99, which means next week is episode 100. Without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. But first, we have a word from our sponsor, and the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio is none other than the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to make sure they don't get fat and lazy, kind of like your boy. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017, because everyone deserves a second chance if they ever get a bad hand dealt. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. You could follow SoCal Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors. You can follow them on Instagram at SouthernCalifornia_Warriors. You can follow them on Facebook by going to the search bar and typing in Southern California Warriors. So thank you to the SoCal Warriors for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Now, without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So, as we all know, the Olympics are this week. This week starts the Olympics. I've done Set Point for almost 2 years, and I've never had to cover Olympic volleyball. I've covered international play like FIBA, but I've never covered the Olympics. One, because COVID happened last year, and two, I started Set Point in 2019. So now I get to cover some Olympic volleyball, which is awesome sauce. So we'll start with the indoor side of things, and the indoor aspect of volleyball in terms of the Olympics has been released in terms of its schedule. Pool play starts on Saturday, and it's going to start with ROC, aka the Republic of China versus Italy. That'll be starting at 5, I want to say it's 5 p.m. Greenwich time. I'm seeing this on the Google part, and it's not giving me. It's only saying 5 p.m. So there's that. So that's the first match, and then also we have the U.S. taking on Argentina. And we say hello to, before we continue, we say hello to Adam Karnick. He says, I could hear the John Williams theme music now. And then we also have Brad Buckingham in the chat room. Thank you two for joining in. Adam just got done with his show, Chi-Town Weekly. He talked a lot about the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Blackhawks, and more importantly, the Chicago Bears, because it's almost NFL season. But I digress. And then Brad Buckingham is actually one of our new hosts on IE Sports Radio, as he is the host of our new Northwestern show, which covers Oregon and Washington and Seattle. It's called the Northwest Territory Sports Show, even though the show part isn't in that. But I digress. So that's going to air Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and like I said, it covers all things like Oregon, like Oregon State, University of Oregon, Washington, and it covers like the Portland Trailblazers, the Seattle Sounders, the Seattle Mariners, and the newly added Seattle Kraken in the NHL. So definitely do check out Northwest Territory Sports every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So great stuff. Welcome to the family, Brad Buckingham. We appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you two being in the chat room. So anyway, back to volleyball. So we have the U.S. playing Argentina after ROC and Italy face one another. And ROC is the Republic of China, which I actually did not know, but you learn something new every day. Anyway, so the U.S. plays China about 2 hours after ROC and Italy play. Then in Pool A, Serbia and the Dominican Republic face one another about 3 hours after the U.S. and Argentina kick off. Then China and Turkey, crossing over to Sunday, July 25th, face each other. And then about 3 hours after China and Turkey face one another, Japan and Kenya face each other. And this is in Pool A. And then also in Pool A, we have Brazil and South Korea. And that concludes all the Sunday matches. Then, it looks like it's just going to be two pools. It's going to be Pool A versus Pool B. And then it's going to probably be, I guess, the top 4 teams finishing in each pool advance to the quarterfinals, then the semifinals, and then the finals happen. So it's basically an Elite 8. So can't wait for it. Again, I don't really cover a whole lot of Olympic volleyball, so this is kind of new to me. So I'm going to try to get this all down pat. So anyway, back to this. So on Monday, which is day 3 of pool play, we have ROC taking on Argentina, followed by China taking on the United States. Those two matches are courtesy of Pool B. Then we have Japan and Serbia facing off in Pool A, followed by Italy and Turkey facing off in Pool B, starting off the Tuesday, July 27th matches. Then after Italy-Turkey, we have Brazil versus Dominican Republic, and then we have South Korea and Kenya, which rounds up the Pool A matches and rounds up the Tuesday matches in general. Then on Wednesday, July 28th, we have Italy versus Argentina kicking off Pool B play, followed by South Korea versus Dominican Republic, which is in Pool A. We have Serbia versus Kenya kicking off pool play in Pool A on Wednesday. And then that crosses over to Thursday's matches, which is going to be between China and ROC, aka Republic of China. So that's going to be a little fun one. And then on Thursday, July 29th, in Pool A, we have Japan versus Brazil. And then later that day and afterward, we have the United States versus Turkey, which that's going to be a sneaky good matchup. Like, all of the U.S. matches are going to be sneaky good, especially if the U.S. plays the way they did, like they did in the I think it was the FIVB World Championship from a couple weeks ago, which they won gold in. So there's that right there. So, and Adam says, I switched to the app. Can I still comment? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Go ahead, Adam. You could comment. So, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Anyway. So, and Adam says, I can. Yay me, I figured out technology. Hey, good job, Adam. Great work. Anyway, back to the pool play games. So, the United States and Turkey that are playing in Pool B finish off the Thursday matches, which surprisingly are all in the AM, depending on where you're listening at. So then on Friday, we have the Dominican Republic taking on Kenya, which kicks off the Friday matches, and that is Pool A's matches. Then in Pool B, we have the United States and ROC facing off against one another. Then following that matchup, we have Argentina versus Turkey. And then on Saturday, July 31st, we have Serbia versus Brazil. And then after that is Japan versus South Korea. Then China versus Italy. And then that crosses over to the Sunday matches, which is on August 1st, as Serbia plays South Korea. And then after that, we have the U.S. taking on Italy. Then we have ROC taking on Turkey. And then that ends Sunday, August 1st matches. And then we jump over to Monday, August 2nd's matches as China takes on Argentina, and then Japan takes on the Dominican Republic. And then closing out pool play is Brazil versus Kenya. So, looking at this, I want to say China and the U.S. is probably the favorites to win. Them or maybe Turkey or maybe Italy. Like, I think this whole thing is, like, up for grabs here. Like, I can't really, say anything bad, and I don't know if the previous event with all those teams, can do any justice for it. So, it's rather tough to predict a clear-cut winner and a clear-cut favorite, but if anything, it's going to be quite nice when it comes to that, as this was it. And yes, Team USA's women's volleyball team, the Olympic team, actually participated in the FIVB World Championship, and they won gold. So that was some fun stuff right there. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that we can continue to hopefully see the U.S. winning gold for their sake. And actually, no, that was the U20 team. So I'm gotta backtrack here and find out everything that needs to go on. But either way, that ends pool play. And honestly, again, I think anybody can win it. There's no I don't think there's a favorite when it comes to this. It's anyone's. Like I said, I think it's probably going to be. I think it's going to be between China and the U.S. because those two are bitter rivals, and I think China, which their national team managed to defeat the U.S. in a pool play game in the most recent event for both of those teams, managed to beat the U.S., which I don't think it mattered just because, it didn't really, because the U.S. had already clinched the Nations League trophy. Yeah, it was in the Nations League, not the FIVB League. So the Nations League, the U.S. managed to win that event. They defeated Brazil in the championship game. So if the Nations League is a prelude to what the Olympics can bring, I really got to put money on the U.S. But you can't count out Brazil. You can't count out Turkey. You can't count out China. You just can't count anyone out. This is the best of the best. And heck, even some of the worst teams nationally can be somewhat good. As we say hello to Davidson Crooks in the chat room, he says, "What's good?" Hey, nothing much, man. Just talking about some Olympic volleyball. Talking about Olympic women's volleyball. So, again, I'm not saying the U.S. just because I'm pretty much rooting for the U.S., but for the most part, I think the U.S. should be the slight favorite. Again, tough to predict, tough to really say which team is the favorite and which team isn't. But if the Volleyball Nations League taught us anything, it's that the U.S. doesn't take one loss too hard, especially since it was a loss that didn't really affect them in the long run. So all in all, I'm really excited for this whole for the whole Olympics to start. So I look forward to it, and we'll see what happens. And also, if for some reason the U.S. or any team wins pool play or basically clinches a spot in the quarterfinals and then they lose a match to like an inferior opponent, I don't want to hear anyone say, "Oh my God, they lost this really highly favorited team lost to that lowly not favorited team." I don't want to hear any more of that. Like, I'm tired of hearing that bologna sausage. It's like, you lose one game and then every fan flips out. One game against an inferior opponent or a opponent that you're heavily favored against. People, I guess, don't know the term load management when it comes to volleyball, but I digress. Alright, so that's enough women's volleyball talk. So let's talk about the men's as their indoor schedule got released. So Friday, July 23rd, we have Italy taking on Canada, and then after that we have Brazil versus Tunisia. Then we have ROC taking on Argentina, which closes out those first 3 matches of Friday. And Italy and Canada are both in Pool A, while Brazil and Tunisia are in Pool B, and ROC and Argentina are also in Pool B. Then on Saturday, July 24th, we have Japan and Venezuela in Pool A facing each other, followed by Poland and Iran facing each other in Pool A. Then we have the U.S. and France facing one another in Pool B, and that's it for the Saturday matches. And then on Sunday, July 25th, we have Iran versus Venezuela playing each other in Pool A. Then the U.S. is back at it on Sunday in Pool B against ROC. Then we have Poland versus Italy in Pool A, rounding off the Sunday matches. Then on Monday we have France versus Tunisia in Pool B. Then we have Japan versus Canada in Pool A. Then also rounding up all the Monday matches, we have Brazil versus Argentina in Pool B. Then on Tuesday we have Canada and Iran in Pool A facing one another to start us off. Then we have the U.S. and Tunisia in Pool B, followed by Argentina versus France in Pool B, which rounds up all the Tuesday matches. Wednesday, we have Poland versus Venezuela in Pool A, followed by Japan versus Italy in Pool A. And then closing off the Wednesday matches, we have Brazil versus ROC in Pool B. Then on Thursday, July 29th, we have Canada versus Venezuela in Pool A, followed by Brazil versus the U.S. in Pool B. And then rounding off the Thursday, July 29th matches are Japan and Poland in Pool A. Then on Friday, July 30th, we have Argentina versus Tunisia in Pool B. Then we have Italy versus Iran in Pool A. And then closing off the Friday matches for July 30th is ROC versus France in Pool B. Then on Saturday, July 31st, we have Poland versus Canada in Pool A, followed by Brazil versus France in Pool B. Then ROC versus Tunisia in Pool B. And then on Sunday, August 1st, we have Italy versus Venezuela in Pool A. Then Japan versus Iran in Pool A. And then closing off pool play altogether is the U.S. and Argentina. So there's that right there. So for the men, it's rather, what's the word? All over the place. Like, I think the men is just as wide open. I could already tell you, and this isn't a knock on the U.S., but I don't think the U.S. is... I mean, I think the U.S. can make the top 4, but can they go far? Like, you have a lot of good teams, such as Brazil and France, and I think Argentina's also up there as well. Like, I think the men is, like, super deep, and I don't think the U.S. will make it. I know they will make it into the quarterfinals, but can they go far? That's my concern. They are nowhere near short of talent, but honestly, I think that this whole men's volleyball, like, Olympic tournament is really wide open, and I think anyone could probably win it. Heck, maybe even the U.S. But it's all about if they play their best volleyball or not. Like, I feel they can. I feel they have a legit shot, but again, can they serve and pass well? Can they hit the ball consistently? Can they limit their mistakes? And can they hang with some of these tougher teams? We'll see, though. But all in all, I'm very excited for that. Those are all the matches when it comes to the indoor matches for the Olympics. That's only pool play. So once everything gets all settled in, once we see once we get into the quarterfinals, aka the elimination round, that's when it gets fun and exciting. So now we jump over to the beach schedule. Now, the beach schedule is going to be very, very complex. There's a lot of matches with a lot of pairs, so definitely hold on to your hard hat. So, pool play surprisingly starts on Friday. So this Friday begins pool play. And starting off is Miki Ishii and Megumi Murakami. This is in women's volleyball, by the way, of Japan. So Miki Ishii and Megumi Murakami in Japan taking on Marketa Slakova and Barbora Hermanova of the Czech Republic. By the way, I'm also gonna be butchering quite a bit of these names, so I apologize. So once again, it's Ishii and Murakami of Japan versus Slakova and Hermanova of the Czech Republic. Then that's going to start the Friday matches, which is July 23rd, and that is in Pool F. So there are a lot of pools in when it comes to the beach volleyball play. But I will also say, it's rather cool. I mean, it's rather fascinating, honestly, just because it gives a lot of variety and it limits error when it comes to everything happening. And then there's the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals. So basically, the top 8 advance, and then there's something called the lucky loser. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a loser's bracket. When it comes to beach volleyball, it's way more different than indoor volleyball. For starters, it's not played with teams. It's just played with 2 players. So, there's that. I'll get into more about that a little bit later. Right now, we have the next match on Friday, July 23rd. We have Agatha Benar... I'm going to really butcher this. Agatha Benar-Kazuk and Eduarda Santos Lisboa of Brazil taking on Ana Galley and Fernanda Pereira of Argentina. Again, I'm going to butcher these names, so I apologize if I do. Then we have closing out the Friday, July 23rd matches. We have Heather Bansley and Brandy Wilkerson of Canada taking on Katja Stam and Reza Schoen of the Netherlands. Oh no, there's more pool play matches on Friday, July 23rd. Then we have Tanja Huberli and Nina Betschart of Switzerland taking on Laura Ludwig and Margareta Kuzuch of Germany. So that's also another pool play. That's in Pool F. And then also in Pool A, we have Anuka Verge Dupree and Joanna Heidrich of Switzerland taking on Carla Borger and Julia Sood of Germany. And that match actually starts the Saturday matchups. Then we have Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana Paredes in Pool C taking on Jia Xinyi and Wang Fan of China. That pair right there, Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana Paredes, that's going to be a pair to watch for. Everyone's going to be so interested in Alex Kleinman and April Ross, but Pavin and Humana Paredes is going to be one fascinating group to watch. And speaking of Alex Kleinman and April Ross, they're actually the next matchup after, as Alex Kleinman and April Ross take on Zhu Chen and Wang Xinxin of China. And then and then the second to last Saturday, July 24th matchup is Marife Artacho del Solar and Talika Clancy of Australia taking on Lidiane Echevarria Benitez and Leila Consuelo Martinez Ortega of Cuba. And then closing off the Saturday, July 24th matches, and that was in Pool A-E. And then this matchup is also in Pool A, which is the last matchup of the Saturday, July 24 matches. We have Nadezhda Markraguzova. Yeah, I had that one. Nadezhda Markraguzova and Svetlana Kolomina of ROC taking on Marta Menegatti and Victoria Orsi-Toth of Italy. And that is that for the Saturday pool play matches, which is on July 24th. Then on Sunday, July 25th, we have Sane Keizer of the Netherlands, as well as Madeline Nepelink of the Netherlands, taking on Elsa Baquerezo and Liliana Fernandez of Spain. And then another little pair to watch for is Kelly Clace and Sarah Sponsel, which is the youngest pair in the Olympics. They are representing the U.S. as they'll be taking on Anastasia Kravenchika and Tina Gradina of Latvia. And that's also kind of another pair to watch for when it comes to Latvia, as Tina Gradina is actually a USC Trojan, as well as Kelly Clace. Sarah Sponsel, on the other hand, is a UCLA Bruin. But again, Clace and Sponsel are the youngest team in all of the beach volleyball Olympics. Then after that matchup, we have Rebecca Calvin-Canty Barbosa Silva and Ana Patricia Ramos of Brazil taking on Braxides Kadambi and Gaudencia Makoka of Kenya. Then after that, we have in Pool A, Heather Bansley and Brandy Wilkerson, another pair that's most likely to watch for, taking on Carla Borger and Julia Sood of Germany. And then that is that for the Sunday matchups. Monday, we have Tanja Huberli and Nina Betschart of Switzerland taking on Marketa Slakova and Barbosa Hermanova of the Czech Republic. Later that day, we have Miki Ishii and Megumi Murakami taking on Laura Ludwig and Margareta Kozuch of Germany. And then we have April Ross and Alex Kleinman of the U.S. taking on Elsa Baquerezo and Liliana Fernandez of Spain. And then lastly of the Monday, July 26th matches, we have Sarah Pavin and Melissa Jimana Paredes taking on Ana Gallet and Fernanda Pereira of Argentina. Then on Tuesday, we have Sane Keizer and Madeline Kepelink of the Netherlands taking on Zhu Chen and Wang Xinjin of China. And then we have Agatha Benardzuk and Eduarda Santos Lisboa of Brazil taking on Jia Xinyi and Wang Fan of China. Then on Tuesday, July 27th, in Pool F, we have Miki Ishii and Megumi Murakami taking on Tanja Huberli and Nina Betschart. And then, wait, didn't I already go over this? No, I didn't. And then on Tuesday in Pool D, we have Rebecca Cavalcanti Barbosa Silva and Ana Patricia Ramos of Brazil taking on Anastasia Kraksinoka and Tina Gradina of Latvia. And then the last Tuesday, July 27th match is Laura Ludwig and Margareta Kozuch and Marketa Slakova and Barboa Hermanova of the Czech Republic. And then on Wednesday, July 28th, we have Nadezhda Makroguzova and Svetlana Kolomina of ROC taking on Ladani Echevarria Benitez of Ladani Echevarria Benitez and Leila Consuelo Martinez Ortega of Cuba. And then we have, following that matchup, Marife Artacho de Salar and Talika Clancy of Australia taking on Marta Menegatti of Italy and Victoria Orsi Toth of Italy. And then the third to last matchup of the Wednesday 28th matches are Kelly Clace and Sarah Sponsel of the U.S. taking on Braxidis Kadambi and Gaudencia Makoka of Kenya. Then we have Heather Bansley and Brandy Wilkerson taking on Anouk Verge Dupre and Joanna Heidrich of Switzerland. And then lastly, of the Wednesday, July 28th matchups, we have Carla Borger and Julia Sood taking on Katja Stam and Reiza Schoen of the Netherlands. And Borger and Sood are representing Germany. And then on Thursday, we have Jia Jinji and Wang Fan of China taking on Anne Galley and Fernanda Pereira of Argentina. Then after that, we have Agatha Banarzuk and Eduarda Santos Lisboa of Brazil taking on Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana Paredes of Canada. Then after that matchup, we have Alex Kleinman and April Ross of the U.S. taking on San Kaiser and Madeline Meppelink of Netherlands. And then the last Thursday match for pool play is Maria Faye Artacho de Salar and Talika Clancy of Australia taking on Nadeza Makroguzova and Svetlana Kolomina of ROC. So now we jump over to Friday. We have Elsa Becarizo and Liliana Fernandez of Spain taking on Zhu Chen and Wang Jinjin of China. Then we have Marta Menegatti and Victoria Orsi Toth of Italy taking on Ladani Echevarria Benitez and Leila Consuelo Martinez Ortega of Cuba. Then we have Rebecca Cavalcanti Barbosa Silva and Ana Patricia Ramos of Brazil taking on Kelly Clace and Sarah Sponsel. And then the last pool play match on the women's side is Anastasia Kravzenoka and Tina Graudina of Latvia and Braxedis Kaldambi and Gaudencia Makoha of Kenya. So those are all the pool play matches. I'm sorry if I had to butcher most of those names, but those are all the pool play matches on the women's side. Again, it's kind of wide open, but I have to put my money on April Ross and Alex Kleinman. If not, I'm putting my money on Pavin and Humana Paredes, just because both of those pairs have been one of the more dominant pairs, honestly. So, but I gotta go with the A team. If I had to put money on, I'd definitely put money on the A team, April Ross and Alex Kleinman. I mean, they had their ups and downs just recently as they kind of lost to Sarah Sponsel and Kelly Clace in, I think it was a FIVB tournament when it came to the beach, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think they'll be ready. They'd rather lose then than lose on the big stage. And they didn't lose too many times when it came to the AVP last year. They won all 3 events, which was pretty darn good. And that was last year during the COVID era, which there were no fans at all these facilities. So there's that. All right, now we jump to men's beach volleyball, and then we'll head to a commercial break. So pool play starts on Friday, July 30th as Allison Cerruti and Alvaro Moraes Filho of Brazil take on Nicolas Capagrosso and Julian Amado Azad of Argentina. Then the next pool play game we have is Konstantin Semenov and Ilya Leshukov of ROC taking on Pablo Herrera Alapuz and Adrian Gavira Collado of Spain. Then we have Robert Mewsen and Alexander Brower taking on Phil Dalhouser and Nick Lucena of the U.S. And that actually, and believe it or not, pool play is so interesting on the men's side. There's only one pool play game on Friday. And then on Saturday, there's like more pool play games. So, cool. Anyway, later on that Saturday, we have Christian Sorum and Anders Mol of Norway taking on Chris McHugh and Damien Schumann of Australia. And then later that day, we have Katsuhiro Shiratori and Yasuke Ishijima of Japan taking on Piotr Kantor and Bartosz Losiak of Poland. And then later that day, we have another pool play game of Bruno Schmidt and Evandro Jr. of Brazil, taking on Macro Gimalt and Esteban Grimalt. And those two are brothers, might I add. The Grimalt brothers, Marco and Esteban, are brothers, and I'm happy to see that they're going to be pairing up. There's actually those are the only two brothers. Anyway, we have Grzegorz Fijalek and Mikhail Bril of Poland taking on Zuhair Agroy and Mohamed Abicha of Morocco. Don't worry, after this, the worst of it's going to be over. Then we have Sheriff Yunus and Ahmed Tijan of Qatar taking on Mirko Gerson and Adrian Heydrich of Switzerland. Then we have Clemens Wickler and Julius Tholi of Germany taking on Paul Nicolai and Daniele Lupo of Italy. And that is actually the last match. Well, actually, that's one of the few matches that's beginning on Sunday. Like, Sunday begins with the Poland-Morocco matchup, and then it goes down to one other matchup between ROC and Australia. But going back to the other matches, we have Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb of the United States taking on Adrian Ignacio Carambula Rowich and Enrico Rossi of Italy. So that's a nice little matchup right there. I think that's probably the matchup to watch for in Pool C. Then in Pool B, we have Vyacheslav Krasnikov and Oleg Stoyanovsky of ROC taking on Josue Gaston Gaciola Leyva and Jose Luis Rubio Camargo of Mexico. Then lastly on Sunday, July 25th, we have Konstantin Semenov and Ilya Leshukov of ROC taking on Christopher McHugh and Damien Schumann of Australia. Then we jump to Monday, July 26th. We have Ondrej Parusic and David Schweiner of the Czech Republic taking on Martins Plevins and Edgars Toks of Latvia. Then we have Christian Sorum and Anders Moll of Norway taking on Pablo Herrera Alapuz and Adrian Galvira Collado of Spain. Then also on that Monday, we have Katsuhiro Shiratori and Yusuke Ishijima of Japan taking on Paolo Nicolai and Daniele Lupo of Italy. Then we have Alison Cerruti and Alvaro Moriz Filho of Brazil taking on Phil Dalhouser and Nick Lucena of the U.S. Then rounding up Monday, July 26th, pool play matches, we have Bruno Schmidt and Evandro Jr. of Brazil taking on Zuhair El-Graoui and Mohamed Abicha of Morocco. Then on Tuesday, July 27th, we have Clemens Wickler and Julius Tolley taking on Piotr Kantor and Bartosz Losiak of Poland. And later that day, we have Robert Musen and Alexander Brouwer of the Netherlands taking on Nicolas Capagrosso and Julian Amado Azad of Argentina. Then we have Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb of the U.S. taking on Mirko Gerson and Adrian Heidrich of Switzerland. Then we have Pablo Herrera Alapuz and Adrian Galvira Collado of Spain taking on Christopher McHugh and Damien Schumann of Australia. Then on Wednesday, the Spain versus Australia matchup on the beach started the Wednesday matches. Then later that Wednesday, we have Sheriff Yunus and Ahmed Tijan of Qatar taking on Adrian Ignacio Carambula Rawich and Enrico Rossi of Italy. Followed by Christian Sorum and Anders Moll of Norway and Konstantin Semenov and Ayla Leshakov of ROC. Then closing off the Wednesday matches, we have Phil Dalhouser and Nick Lucena of the United States taking on Nicolas Capagrosso and Julian Amado Azad of Argentina. Then on Thursday, we have Ondrej Perusic and David Schwiener of the Czech Republic taking on Josue Gaston Gaschiola and Josue Gaston Gaschiola Leyva and Jose Luis Rubio Camargo of Mexico. And later that day, we have Vyacheslav Krasilnikov and Oleg Stoyanikovsky of ROC taking on Martins Plavins and Edgars Toks of Latvia. Then later that day, we have Alison Cerruti and Alvaro Moraes Filho of Brazil taking on Robert Musen and Alexander Brouwer of Netherlands. Then later that Thursday, we have Adrian Ignacio Carambula Rawich and Enrico Rossi of Italy taking on Mirko Gerson and Adrian Heidrich of Switzerland. And then the last Thursday match we have is Marco and Esteban Grimalt taking on Zuhair El-Graoui and Mohamed Abicha of Morocco. Then on Friday, which is the second to last day of pool play, because the last full day of pool play, might I add, because there is one pool play game on Saturday. So Friday, we have Paul Nicolai and Daniele Lupo of Italy taking on Piotr Kantor and Bartosz Losiak of Poland. Then later that day, we have Sharif Yunus and Ahmed Tijan taking on Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb of the U.S. Then we have Katsuhiro Shiratori and Yusuke Ishijima of Japan taking on Clemens Wickler and Julius Tolley of Germany. Then the last Friday pool play game we have is Martins Plavins and Edgar Tox of Latvia taking on Jose Gaston Gasciola Leyva and Jose Luis Rubio Camargo of Mexico. So those are all Friday's pool play matches. And the last pool play match we have is Vyacheslav Krasilennikov and Oleg Stoyanovitsky of ROC taking on Ondrej Perusic and David Schweiner of the Czech Republic. So those are all the pool play matches. I'm sorry to those that had to sit through that pain. I really do apologize. As for the men's side, I also think the men's are wide open. Just because I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. Obviously, you have Dalhouser and Lucena to watch for, but even they're not invincible, as seen in the AVP from last year. So, all in all, I think the Olympics is, if I could just describe the Olympics in just one word, it's unpredictable. Just because in any of those volleyball events, I think it's up for grabs. Anyone can win it. Even the worst team can win it. So, I'm really excited for this, and I hope we get some exciting matches in the Olympics, and I'm looking forward to reporting on this. And also, I may do some commentary via USRN and all of our sister stations, like Wellington Sports Radio and USRN2, and maybe even iSports Radio. So, we'll see. But all in all, that's going to do it for the Olympic side. Again, I'm sorry to those that had to hear me butcher a lot of names, and I'm sorry about the whole little slow thing, but it is what it is, and I got to get the Olympics in there just because that's the biggest volleyball that's going to be happening. Alright, so we'll take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we'll have some volleyball transfer news, then we'll have some volleyball schedule volleyball schedule releases, and then we'll talk a little about next week's 100th episode of Set Point. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back and in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio, so come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Set Point. Thank you all for tuning in once again. You can check out all of our amazing shows on different streaming platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Deezer, Podcast Addict. The list goes on and on. And this show in particular is on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and many of those other streaming platforms that I just mentioned. So definitely do check out Set Point on those streaming platforms, and definitely check out all of our other shows. We got a lot of shows that's going to be making their debut in a few more days. And iSports Radio, let me just tell you, it is growing, especially since this week is a huge week, considering it is 8 divisions in 8 days on one of our shows, 3 and Out, which is dedicated to football. So every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, well, today was the NFC South, and then tomorrow, I believe, is the NFC North. Then I believe it's the NFC West on Wednesday, and then Thursday is the NFC East, which will basically complete NFC week, and then next week is going to be the AFC. I don't know what the order is going to be. I imagine it might be AFC West first, and then it'll just go on from there. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. But we even have quite a bit of new shows. I mentioned earlier that Northwest Territory Sports is going to be hosted by Brad Buckingham. Sorry, I'm getting my Buckinghams mixed up. But we have a lot of other shows. We have another show making its debut next week. We have Kansas City Sports Talk with the franchise, a.k.a. Brandon Buck. So we got Brandon Buckingham of Bases Loaded, Brad Buckingham of Northwest Territory Sports, and then we have Brandon Buck of Kansas City Sports Talk. But he goes by the franchise. But definitely do check out Kansas City Sports Talk tomorrow, which will be going live at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. And then also tomorrow, which will also be making its debut, is Locked On Wisconsin with Stephen Coplin. He'll be talking about all sorts of Wisconsin sports, such as the Green Bay Packers, the Milwaukee Bucks. Heck, we will most likely be getting talk of Wisconsin women's volleyball, which I've been waiting for a Wisconsin show for quite some time. And last week I actually just went over their schedule, so there's that right there. So yeah, those are making their debuts, and Northwest Territory makes its debut on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time. And then like I said, we have plenty of shows. We've got shows for like other sports and other sports regions and other cities. So definitely do check out that. Like this show in particular is the last show on Monday. And when it comes to today, as we had Gina G with Reppin' the NorCal Sports, who went on at 3 p.m. And I gotta give kudos to her, because even though she had a few hiccups in her episode, she was able to finish strong and finish great. And I gotta give her a tip of the cap. So great job to her. And then Adam Karnick always does an outstanding job with Chi-Town Weekly. And also Larry B had his show 3 and Out, which was 8 divisions in 8 days. Normally he has Defining Moment, but now since it's 8 divisions in 8 days, we basically have 3 and Out on this week, and then 3 and Out will be on next week. So there's that. Alright, so that's enough plugging in. So now let's jump into segment number 2 of Set Point. So before I jump into the schedule releases and the transfer news, I actually got to talk about the U.S. Women's U20 team. So the U.S. Women's U20 team partook in the FIVB Championship, and they got 5th place. They were looking at a pool play to start, and then in their second week of pool play, they kind of fell apart. They beat Brazil, but then unfortunately they kind of had a rough time with Russia and the Netherlands, which is disappointing. They lost to Netherlands in 4 sets, and they lost to Russia in 4 sets, and then lost to Netherlands in 5 sets. In that Netherlands match, they actually were down 0-2, and then they came back to force a 5th set, but then ran out of gas in that they ran out of gas in that fifth set, losing that fifth set 15-10, which basically knocked them into the fifth place consolation bracket, which, again, finishing fifth is not glamorous, but they finished strong as they managed to sweep Dominican Republic, and then they eventually swept Poland, which they actually were down 2-0 at the time, and then they managed to reverse sweep them, which was great stuff. As Poland won the first two sets 25-14 and 25-18, but then the U.S. won the next three sets 25-16, 29-27, and 15-13. Gotta give props to Dan Fisher, the head coach of the University of Pitt. So, and then the U.S. players of tomorrow, such as Emily Landaunt, Cammie Minor, Reagan Hope, the list goes on and on. So, all in all, I'm very excited for... I was kind of impressed with the U.S. after they lost 2 consecutive in pool play. It would have been great to see them finish first, but you can't complain with a strong finish. So that's all for the U.S. U20 team. So now let us jump on over to the college volleyball transfer news. And where we left off was Caroline Schaefer of Cal transferring from Cal to USC. So then we have Cheyenne Jones, who played on UTEP last year, and she'll be transferring to Coastal Carolina. She is a grad student who is listed at 6'1", and she is an outside hitter / opposite. So the Chanticleers got slightly better as they just barely missed the NCAA tournament. They lost to Texas State in the Sun Belt Conference Championship in 5 sets, and as we all know, Annette Namath suffered a leg injury or a knee injury. I feel it was like a torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken. But losing Annette Namath really hurt Coastal Carolina, which I think if they had her, it would have been a whole different match. But I digress. Anyway, next up we have Michaela Tolman, who transferred from BYU and is transferring to Boise State. She is a freshman, so she's most likely going to be a sophomore, as she is listed as 6'3", and she is an opposite. That's huge for Boise State. That means they're going to get quite a bit of height, and also it's going to give them quite a bit of firepower for that Mountain West Conference, and I think Boise State might have a good shot. Last year, it was UNLV that won the conference championship, which that conference was all over the place. Like, Colorado State was down, Boise State was down. So the fact that we had UNLV winning their first conference championship and making their first NCAA tournament appearance, and I think they won their first ever NCAA tournament match, is quite astounding. So, there's that. Then we have Tommy Stockham transferring from Indiana, and she'll be heading to Southern California to play for Cal Poly, which is quite big. Stockham is a 6'2" outside hitter. She is listed as a freshman, so that's that's big for Indiana. Yeah, that's big for Cal Poly, and another big loss for Indiana, as it looked as if they had gotten some players to fill their voids, but now they have lost more players to transfer. So, c'est la vie. And then we have Nia Dong, who is transferring from Utah, and she also is heading to the Big West as she is transferring to UC San Diego. She is a 5'5" libero, and she is a redshirt freshman, so she will have quite a bit of years left. She'll probably have like 4, if not 5 years, if she does take that extra year of eligibility. So she went from Pac-12 to Big West. Pretty cool. Then we have Kalia Fobert, who is transferring from Denver down to Utah Valley. So she's not going far. She's going from, I guess, Midwest to like further Midwest, as Fobert is a 6' outside hitter. She's a sophomore, so she will be going to Utah Valley, the home of the Wolverines, after she had a season with Denver. So there's that. Then we have Gretchen Kukan, who is transferring from Indiana State to Valparaiso Valparaiso. She is a 6-foot outside hitter, and she is a sophomore. So she goes from Indiana State to Valparaiso. So cool. Then we have Anouk Van Noord, who was UMBC's top scorer from last year, as she is transferring from UMBC to Cal Baptist. She is listed as 6'2", and she is a graduate student. So that's kind of big right there. And Cal Baptist, unfortunately, did not do great in the Western Athletic Conference last year, so this gives the Lancers a little bit more firepower. So good for them. And then we have Alexis Lusby, who is transferring from Washington State to TCU. She is a 6'5" opposite, and she's a sophomore. This is, and I don't mean to use this as a pun, but this is big right here, because that gives TCU quite a bit of firepower. And with a player like that, 6'5", only a sophomore, that's quite amazing. So Washington State kind of lost kind of a good player, so I don't know what happened, but she is going from Power 5 conference to Power 5 conference. Maybe she just wanted a fresh start, but I digress. Then we have Kess Krutzinger, who is transferring from Southern Miss over to Weber State. She is a 5'11" middle blocker, and she's only a freshman, so she went from the South to Weber State, which I believe is in the Midwest, which is like in the Illinois area, so there's that. And then we have Julia Haney, who is transferring from Portland State to San Diego State. She is a 6'1" middle blocker, and she's only a sophomore. So that's good stuff for San Diego State. And that is that for all the transfers. Now, I'm actually seeing this whole returning seniors thing when it comes to the college volleyball transfers. I kind of made note of some of these players, but I guess this is kind of like a quick little recap of who's staying and who's going, or who's staying at which school, which of the top players are staying. So first of all we have Mac May, who is staying with UCLA, as well, and another newcomer for UCLA is Shelby Martin, a setter from Kansas State. Not returning, however, is Alexis Light, who I guess is not returning just to focus on her next chapter in her life. And then Sabrina Smith has transferred to USC. So I don't know why they're doing this whole returning seniors thing, but I guess it's worth noting, and I guess because UCLA is pretty darn good, so there's that. And also Mac May is a top tier player, so we'll see. Then for BYU, they return Kennedy Eschenberg and Taylin Ballard-Nixon. And in terms of newcomers, they have Kenzie Kerber and Gretchen Reinert, as Kerber transferred from Utah and Reinert transferred from Santa Clara. So BYU is starting to get some good rivalry players. They did lose a few players, but they are returning quite a bit of talent with Eschenberg and Ballard-Nixon. The scary thing about BYU is that they had a young team last year, and they were able to make the Sweet 16 despite having that young team. So there's that. And then lastly, for the returning seniors is Megan Coonley and Kylie Bruder of Illinois. Bruder is a setter and Cooney is an outside hitter. Not returning is Emily Hollowell, as she is transferred to Ball State, and Micah Allison has transferred to Florida Atlantic. So that is that for the returning seniors and for all the transfer news happening. So again, I don't know why they did that whole little thing of the returning seniors, but I guess it's like for the top, those are like the top players that are worth noting. So I mean, I pretty much already said who was returning for I already said that Mac May was returning for UCLA, so there's that right there. I said it like a long time ago, but oh well. So that's it for all the transfer news. Now we jump to everyone's favorite, the schedule releases. And I think I could get through 4. I got through 5 last week, so I'll go through 4. I was iffy about doing one of them, but let's do the schedule release. So we'll start with Hawaii first, just because Hawaii did not have a season last year, because I don't know what the frick the Big West was doing, but I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, so Hawaii kicks off its season at home against Fairfield. And then the day after, on Saturday, they take on Marquette. That's going to be somewhat of a noteworthy matchup just because Marquette is underwhelmingly good. And then the following day, Hawaii will finish up its 3-game homestand. Why couldn't I not get that word out? Hawaii will finish its 3-game homestand against Texas A&M. Their matchup against Fairfield starts at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. Their matchup against Marquette starts at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. And their matchup against Texas A&M starts at 5 p.m. Hawaii time. The Texas A&M matchup is also kind of going to be a little underwhelmingly good just because A&M has a lot to prove after their disastrous season last year. And keep in mind, that was a year after I think they went to the Sweet 16. So we'll see what happens with A&M. Then on Thursday, September 2nd, Hawaii travels down to Orem, Utah to take on Utah Valley. That is slated for 1 p.m. Hawaii time. Then they'll stay in Utah for the Utah Classic as they play San Diego on September 3rd at 9 a.m. Hawaii time. So I imagine that's going to be, 12 p.m. Pacific time? Because if I'm not mistaken, Hawaii is like 3 hours behind California. And then Hawaii takes on Utah at Utah on September 4th, which is a Saturday. And then that is that for the Utah Classic. Then Hawaii has a 2-game series against USC. That'll be at home. Both of those matchups are on September 10th and 11th, and both start at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. So for us Californians, we have to be punished by either staying up late to watch USC take on Hawaii, or we have to go to sleep and hope that USC got the win. But I digress. And then that's actually their last official match, because I can't believe they have this right in the middle of their season. Hawaii has their alumni green and white scrimmage, which is their alumni game. So I guess that's kind of it for their non-conference schedule. They open up conference play on Thursday, September 23rd at UC Riverside, and then a couple days after, they will stay in California to take on UC Davis. Both of those matches are slated for 4 p.m. Hawaii time, which is 7 p.m. California time. Then on Friday, October 1st, Hawaii returns home to take on Long Beach State, which is going to be a really good game. That is going to be a 7 p.m. Hawaii time start. And then on Sunday, October 3rd, which I'm surprised that Hawaii gets Sunday games, but I guess they kind of are allowed to have those type of games. But again, I digress. Anyway, so on Sunday, October 3rd, Hawaii plays Cal State Fullerton at 5 p.m. Hawaii time. Then Hawaii hits the road for a 2-game road trip back in California as Hawaii takes on UC San Diego at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. Then on Saturday, October 9th, Hawaii plays at UC Irvine at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. Then Hawaii returns home for a 2-game homestand on Friday, October 15th against Cal Poly at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. Then on Saturday, October 16th, they play Cal State Bakersfield at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. I'm sorry to all the Californians, but that's going to be 10 p.m. your time. Then Hawaii hits the road for another 2-game roadie as Hawaii plays at UC Santa Barbara on Friday, October 22nd at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. And then on Saturday, October 23rd, Hawaii plays at Cal State Northridge, aka CSUN, at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. Then Hawaii heads back home for a 2-game homestand against UC Davis on Friday, October 29th at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. And then they'll stay at home against UC Riverside on Saturday, October 30th at 7 p.m. Hawaii time, which once again for Californians, that is 10 p.m. Pacific time. Then Hawaii will hit the road yet again to take on Cal State Fullerton at 4 p.m. Hawaii time, which is going to be on November 5th, which is a Friday. And then on Saturday, which I actually think is going to be a very fun matchup at the Pyramid, Hawaii will play at Long Beach State at 4 p.m. Hawaii time, which is 7 p.m. in California time. I really want to go to that match, but I'm not sure where I'm going to be at in terms of what's going to happen with me in my future. Anyway, that's enough about me. Then we have Hawaii returning home for a 2-game homestand. They will play UC Irvine at the Stan Sheriff Center on Friday, November 12th at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. And then on Sunday, November 14th, Hawaii will take on UC San Diego at 5 p.m. Hawaii time, which is going to be 8 p.m. Pacific time for all the Californians or UC San Diego fans. Can't say the same for UC Irvine fans, as that's going to be 10 p.m. for that UC Irvine game. So there's that. Then Hawaii yet once again goes on a little 2-game roadie as they hit the road to Bakersfield to take on Cal State Bakersfield on Friday, November 19th. That is surprisingly a 3 p.m. Hawaii time start, which is a 6 p.m. Pacific time start. So that's cool. And then Hawaii plays at Cal Poly at 6 p.m. Hawaii. Wait, 6 p.m. Hawaii time? But that's a 9 p.m. But that's 9 p.m. California time. Are we sure about this? Hawaii plays at Cal... I'm reading this correctly. Hawaii plays at Cal Poly at 6 p.m. Hawaii time. That's 3 hours ahead in California. So that matchup starts at 9 p.m. That is asinine, if you ask me. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word, but that is complete baloney sausage. You can't have a match starting at 9. Fix this immediately. Fix this now. A 9 p.m. start time in California. You can't have that. Unacceptable. Anyway, Hawaii closes its season at home against Cal State Northridge on Friday, November 26th at 7 p.m. Hawaii time, which is 10 p.m. California time, which that's not Hawaii's problem. See, they could have that. See, there's no qualm with that. They can have, if the match is being played at Hawaii, that's 7 p.m. Hawaii time. Which is 10 p.m. in California, which that's not anyone else's problem. If anyone else wants to watch it, bring lots of Monster Energy drinks, Red Bulls, 5-hour energies, etc. And then, closing out the season, Hawaii plays UC Santa Barbara on Saturday, November 27th at 7 p.m. Hawaii time, which is 10 p.m. Pacific time. And that closes out the season for Hawaii as that is that. And Hawaii actually has the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament, and then they have the NCAA regionals, the NCAA regional date, and then they also have the NCAA Final Four championship, which is going to be held in Columbus, Ohio. I think. I'm not sure. I'm certain, though. I digress. But that is that for Hawaii, the Hawaii Rainbow Wahine. As for those that don't know, fun fact, Hawaii, when it comes to like female sports, is known as the Rainbow Wahine, as opposed to their male counterparts, which are known as the Rainbow Warriors. So you just learned something today with Teaching with Teran. So so that is that for Hawaii's schedule. Now let's jump to Purdue's schedule. So Purdue has quite the fascinating schedule. So they will start off in West Lafayette, Indianapolis, or Indiana, as they will take on Loyola Marymount on August 27th, which is a Friday. And that is a 6 p.m. start time. I imagine that's going to probably be Eastern time, just because it's in Indiana, and I'm pretty sure that's like East Coast or Midwest time, so we'll see. And then Purdue plays Kansas on Sunday, August 29th. So there's that little matchup right there. Then Purdue plays in the Rebel Challenge in Las Vegas, which will be hosted by UNLV. Purdue plays Washington State on Thursday, September 2nd. Time is to be determined, as well as their second matchup against UNLV, which is slated for Friday, September 3rd. Then Purdue participates in the Xavier University tournament, as Purdue will play Louisville in Cincinnati, Ohio. That is a 3 p.m. start time, which is going to be 3 p.m. in Indiana time. Now, that Louisville-Purdue matchup is going to be one to know. One of the Big Ten's best versus the ACC best. I'm really excited for that matchup. I really, really can't wait for that matchup. I am very interested to see how Louisville does against Purdue and vice versa. And then here's the interesting part. So Purdue will either play Lipscomb or Xavier on Saturday, September 11th. So interesting. But I'm also going to make note of this. September 10th, the weekend of September 10th and September 11th, there are quite a bit of fascinating games happening. That's probably going to be the Christmas of NCAA women's volleyball, and I can't wait. Anyway, Purdue then heads back to West Lafayette, Indiana, for the Stacey Clark Classic, as Purdue plays Jacksonville State and Purdue of Fort Wayne. That Purdue of Fort Wayne is going to be a fun matchup. Purdue versus Purdue of Fort Wayne. It's a little inter-city rivalry. And then Purdue's last matchup of the Stacey Clark Classic will be against Tennessee. That's going to be a very fun matchup. I think that Tennessee matchup is kind of sneaky good, just because that Tennessee matchup could serve as a possible trap game, because, spoiler alert, the next game for Purdue is a Big Ten game, and it's going to be a very tough Big Ten game. So Tennessee could prove to be a challenge for Purdue, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm just saying that because one of my friends is a big Tennessee fan, so there's that. Then Purdue kicks off Big Ten play at home against Ohio State. I believe all of these matches are to be determined in terms of time, but Friday, September 24th, Purdue takes on Ohio State. That's going to be a very fun matchup right there, just because both those two teams finished in the top 10, I think, when it came to the AVCA polls. And then on Sunday, September 26th, Purdue hits the road to Bloomington to play Indiana. Then on Friday, October 1st, Purdue heads back home to take on Illinois. And then the following day, Saturday, October 2nd, Purdue takes on Rutgers. And then Wednesday, October 6th, Purdue faces a familiar foe in Illinois, which I kind of wonder why Illinois gets to face some of these familiar opponents. I don't know if it's just Illinois or maybe it's just someone else, but I don't know. It's rather fascinating. So Illinois plays Purdue yet again for the second time in 5 days. And then Purdue will stay on the road to Iowa City as they take on Iowa on Saturday, October 9th. But they'll get a nice little layoff there. They'll get 2 days to travel, prepare, and rest. And then on Friday, October 15th, Purdue hits the road again to take on the Ohio State in Columbus on Friday, October 15th. Then on Sunday, October 17th, Purdue takes on Penn State. But this time they'll be returning home, as Purdue will be done with its little 3-game road trip, and they'll begin a 2-game homestand, as their second of their 2-game homestand is against Michigan State on Wednesday, October 20th. And then on Saturday, October 23rd, Purdue will play at Nebraska in Lincoln. Then Purdue returns home for another 2-game homestand as they play Northwestern on Wednesday, October 27th. And then on Saturday, October 30th, Purdue plays at home against Wisconsin. Then Purdue hits the road for, this time, a 4-game roadie, as Purdue hits the road to College Park, Maryland, to play Maryland on Friday, November 5th. Then the following day, Purdue heads further up east to take on Rutgers, located in New Jersey. Then on Friday, November 12th, Purdue heads down to Madison, Wisconsin, to take on Wisconsin. And then on Sunday, November 14th, Purdue will head further down to take on Minnesota to take on Minnesota in Minneapolis. And then Purdue will return home for just one little game, as they'll play Michigan on Friday, November 19th. And then on Sunday, November 21st, Purdue will head down to the Windy State, or close to the Windy City, in Evanston, Illinois, where they'll take on Northwestern. Then Purdue will head back home for their final 2 home games, as they'll take on Indiana on Friday, November 26th. And then the day after, Purdue will conclude its schedule against Nebraska, which is going to be a very tough matchup, but you never know. All in all, I think there's going to be some promise for Purdue, who returns most of its players from this year's Elite 8 team. I think Purdue has quite a bit going on for their team. I think all of their players return, unless some of them transferred. All in all, this is going to be a fun season for Purdue, and they'll probably be a team to watch out for, so there's that. And then we'll jump to the Sun Belt Conference, as Texas State has released its schedule. Now, Texas State, I kind of was thinking I shouldn't do this, but I saw their schedule. I'm like, maybe I should. They have a few eye-popping matches. Their first matchup is against Kentucky, and then they'll be playing at the Farrick Center in Dayton, Ohio, in the Dayton Invitational. So right off the bat, Texas State takes on the reigning champion Kentucky Wildcats. That's going to be a fun matchup. And then also on that day, Texas State plays Cincinnati, which, now I don't know if Cincinnati was just not on its A game last year, but I will also say that could also be a tricky matchup for Texas State, so they got to be on their A game. And then Texas State concludes the Dayton Invitational against the host school, Dayton. Then Texas State heads back to Texas, but instead they'll be heading to Lubbock, Texas, as they'll be playing Texas Tech in the Red Raider Classic on Friday, September 3rd. It's going to be a nice little neighborly matchup. So that's on September 3rd. And then, believe it or not, the day after, Texas Tech plays Ohio State on Saturday, September 4th in the Red Raider Classic, and then closes out the Red Raider Classic later on in the day against Rhode Island. So that's going to be a very fun matchup right there. That Ohio State matchup is really looking good. So, Texas State is not scheduling any pushovers, that's for sure. But can they beat them? Kentucky might be beatable, but they still have quite a bit of players from this year's team. And then Dayton is always as good as they are year in and year out. And then Ohio State is on the rise. And then Texas State returns home to Texas, except they'll be heading down to Austin to take on the University of Texas, which was a finalist in the NCAA tournament. That matchup is slated for Tuesday, September 7th, so nice little Tuesday matchup right there. And then Texas State will be heading back to its official home in San Marcos, Texas, to start the Bobcat Invitational. So Texas State kicks off the Bobcat Invitational against Alabama, which, I don't know. I guess Alabama will be decent, but they had a lot of roster turnover. I'm sorry, Davidson, if you're still listening. And then Texas State closed out the Bobcat Invitational against Miami. And then I also should make note that Alabama and Miami will face each other earlier in the day, so cool. And then Texas State has a non-conference match against Texas A&M. That's going to be slated for Tuesday, September 14th. And then they also play in the Texas A&M Corpus Christian tournament, as they play the host team, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, on Thursday, September 16th. Then the day after, which is Friday, September 17th, Texas State plays UTEP and Tarleton State. And then Texas State kicks off Sun Belt Conference play again at Troy, which is Friday, September 24th. And then after that, they stay on the road to take on South Alabama on Saturday, September 25th. Then Texas State returns home to take on University of Louisiana Monroe on Friday, October 1st. And then after that, they play the University of Louisiana on Saturday, October 2nd, a.k.a. the Ragin' Cajuns. I have to do that voice. I'm sorry. Anyway, Texas State then stays at home against UT Arlington on Thursday, October 7th. And then they also play UT Arlington again, this time at UT Arlington on Saturday, October 9th. Then on Friday, October 15th, Texas State will leave the state of Texas and head down to Arkansas to take on Little Rock. That'll be slated for Friday. That's again slated for Friday, October 15th. Then on Saturday, Texas State will stay in the beautiful state of Arkansas to take on Arkansas State in Jonesboro. That is slated for Saturday, October 16th. Then we got the big one right here. Texas State will head back to San Marcos to take on Coastal Carolina on Friday, October 22nd. Now, I don't know if Annette Nemeth is coming back for the Chanticleers. If so, I'm really looking forward to that. If not, I'm still going to look forward to it. Just because Coastal Carolina and Texas State pretty much are the top two when it comes to the Sun Belt Conference. So I'm looking forward to that. Then Texas State will stay home to take on App State or Appalachian State on Saturday, October 23rd. Then Texas State will hit the road to Statesboro, Georgia to take on Georgia Southern on Friday, October 29th. Then Texas State will stay in the beautiful state of Georgia to take on Georgia State in Atlanta, Georgia on Saturday, October 30th. Then on Friday, November 5th, Texas State will head back to San Marcos to take on Little Rock. And then 2 days after, Texas State will stay at home to take on Arkansas State on Sunday, November 7th. Then Texas State will hit the road to Monroe, Louisiana to take on UNL Monroe on Friday, November 12th. Then on Saturday, November 13th, Texas State will stay in the land of gumbo and spiciness as they'll take on Louisiana in Lafayette, Louisiana. Then after that is basically the Sun Belt Conference. That's going to be held at Foley, Alabama. So that's that for the Texas State schedule. I'm really looking forward to what Texas State can bring. In their first season in the post-Karen Cheeseum era, they actually really showed up to take on. They really showed up and showed out. I don't think that was the correct term to use, but they really showed up and showed their chops when it came to their season, as they really performed well in the Sean Hewitt era, and they played the most games of all, they played the most matches of all of the teams in the NCAA last season. So this season, they're kind of going to have more of a. They're going to have they're going to have fewer matches, but they'll have some stiff competition. Like, last year they were able to schedule, like, Baylor and Texas. I think they scheduled Rice. And then they also are the reigning Sun Belt Conference champions when it comes to the tournament. Not regular season. Well, no, they did win their little, like, division in their Sun Belt Conference. But either way, they're the reigning conference champions. So there's that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Texas State can do, because that team is a perennial NCAA tournament team. And the fact that Sean Hewitt took over for Karen Cheeseum after she had coached for 40 years, he has now done a great job in his first season. So we'll see what Sean Hewitt can do with Texas State. So that is that for the Bobcats. Now we can go over the last team when it comes to Teran's schedule releases, and that's Western Virginia. Now, I didn't really plan on doing this, but since my good friend Seth Eves, who does a fine job when it comes to broadcasting games on USRN and all the other sister station networks, he sent this to me. He was like, "Here you go, Teran," and I'm like, "Thanks, Seth." And I don't know why he sent it to me, but I will not complain, and I guess I will do it. So here's West Virginia's schedule. Now, let me just tell you something about West Virginia. They're not in that upper echelon of teams when it comes to the Big 12. Like, that basically is occupied by Baylor and Texas and Baylor in that order. Kansas State is kind of also up there. They still have to show their chops after they had somewhat of a great breakout season. So, anyway, starting with West Virginia's schedule, they have what is it? Not a scrimmage, but an exhibition match against Kent State. So that's going to be played in West Virginia, but that is just a exhibition match. Their first match of the season will be in the Old Dominion tournament as they play Loyola of, not Chicago, but I think it's Loyola of Maryland, I want to say. So, I'm sorry, but it's not Loyola Marymount. So, I really want to, I think it's Loyola of Maryland, because there's Loyola of Chicago, which that is not it. Yeah, it's Loyola of Maryland, not Loyola of Chicago, so there is that right there, and I think I accidentally screwed up. Whoops. Here we go. So yeah, it is Loyola of Maryland, and West Virginia is playing them in the first match of the Old Dominion tournament on Friday, August 27th. And then later that day, West Virginia takes on the host school, Old Dominion, on Friday, August 27th. Then the day after, West Virginia will take on Hampton, which is the last match of the Old Dominion tournament. Then West Virginia will head down to Maryland to take on for the Navy tournament, as West Virginia takes on Michigan on Friday, September 3rd. And then the day after, West Virginia will take on host school Navy on Saturday, September 4th. Then West Virginia will head up east to Buffalo to take on American in the Buffalo / Concisius tournament. That first matchup against American is slated for Saturday, September 10th. And then later that day, West Virginia will take on Concisius, which is the host school, on that later September 10th day. And then on Saturday, September 11th, West Virginia will play Buffalo at the Alumni Arena to end off the Buffalo / Concisius tournament. Then West Virginia returns home for its little own tournament as West Virginia plays George Washington on September 16th, which is a Thursday. And then later that day, West Virginia will take on UMBC. They say it's against Maryland, but it's not against Maryland. It's against UMBC. Maybe they made a little error of it. Maybe they were going to have Maryland, and then they realized, oh wait, we can't have Maryland and Penn State facing each other because those two are conference teams. And that's a big no-no. Anyway, so West Virginia closes off the Mountaineer Invitational against Penn State. That's going to be a fun little matchup. I think that matchup right there, they're facing two pretty tough opponents in Michigan and Penn State. So I think that'll kind of get them prepared for Big 10 or Big 12 play. Speaking of Big 12 play, Friday, September 24th, West Virginia kicks off the Big 12 at home against Oklahoma. So Big 12, I guess, is staying with its whole two-game series, and it's going to be held in one location, as West Virginia takes on Oklahoma on Friday and Saturday, September 24th and 25th. And then after that, West Virginia heads down to Austin to take on Texas on September 30th and October 1st, which is a Thursday and a Friday. And then West Virginia will have a bye week after that. And then on Thursday, October 14th and Friday, October 15th, West Virginia will hit the road to Kansas State to take on Kansas State, which will be in Manhattan, Kansas. And then West Virginia will return home to West Virginia to take on Baylor, which will be on Friday, October 22nd and Saturday, October 23rd. Then West Virginia will hit the road to Ames, Iowa to take on Iowa State. That's going to be held on Friday, October 29th and Saturday, October 30th. Then West Virginia will head back home to take on Kansas. That'll be slated for Thursday, November 4th and Friday, November 5th. And then I guess West Virginia will have a mini bye week, as their next match won't be until November 18th and November 19th against Texas Tech. And then closing off the season, West Virginia will hit the road to Fort Worth, Texas to take on TCU on Friday, November 26th, and Saturday, November 27th. So that is that for West Virginia. And that's going to be that for the schedule releases. So before we end off Set Point, I definitely do got to make note of something. So next week, as we all know, it's the 100th episode of Set Point. Okay, it's not that special. Come on, people. But it is the 100th episode of Set Point, and I'm going to try to have a jam-packed show. And I'm going to try to have... I will have at least one guest on. So next week, for sure, we will have Craig Pizzanti, the Huntington Beach High School boys and girls volleyball coach on the show, and he'll only be on for like 30 minutes, but we'll try to get him out as soon as possible, just because, God bless the man, he was kind enough to take 30 minutes out of his day, because he actually has a girls' volleyball camp. So all in all, I really do appreciate Craig for taking time out of his day and him being here. So, and I apologize if we started a little late. We had a little technical issues. We'll try to start on time next week, especially for Craig Pizzanti's sake. But we're going to try to get more guests, and I really want to bring back, whether it's past guests or having new guests, I really want to try to bring guests on. So stay tuned for upcoming guests for next week's episode, being the 100th episode of Set Point. But for right now, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for tuning in to Set Point, episode 99. And maybe we'll have a little Q&A session. The last time I tried to do a Q&A, we weren't able to get too many people to ask questions, which was disappointing, but I digress. But next week, I will for sure have one guest on. We'll try to get more guests on, and we'll try to make this episode 100 the most jam-packed episode 100 show anyone has ever seen. But for right now, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Without any further delay, it is time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you all once again for tuning in to Set Point. I really appreciate those that tuned in. If you're listening on the playback, I appreciate you. If you are listening live, I appreciate you. If you are listening in the wee hours of the morning, I appreciate you. And if you are listening late at night, I very, very, very much appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room that tuned in. Adam Karnick, Brad Buckingham, Davidson Crooks were all popping in for a little bit. Sorry if the first half of the show, when it came to the Olympic portion, was kind of a little bit of a train wreck. But what can we do? For right now, for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. I will see you all Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And please, please, please do keep an eye on any sort of announcements when it comes to next week's 100th episode of Set Point. Have a great night, everybody. Peace!